Today we're going to be working on a couple of elements to build a freeze frame intro sequence similar to this one. So a member of the community actually requested to make a tutorial on this, and I've never seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I asked him to send me over a intro, and he did. So let's just take a look here at the elements that build this. So it seems like this is what's used to just show each person that's a part of the show. And there's a couple of like little elements here that you can see. Let's just take this one frame by frame. So the first thing is that it punches in. And once it punches in, obviously the color's at it and they're cut out. And then we have, and these are, each one of these is a frame. They have a bar that goes across, and everything has motion blur on it. So there's a bar that goes across, and the name is split into two pieces. So there's like 3 flying elements here, for each one. So same thing here. They're all pretty much the same. It crops in, and then 3 elements come across. And one thing that I did notice is how the elements are cut. So this one, it's just the arm that's cut. If we come back to here, nothing's cut. And let's see here, nothing's cut there. His arm's cut here, and it looks like in this one, actually, there's a little bit of whatever this background color is coming through on top of this element. So each one's done a little bit differently. It seems like this one here, this mask is controlling the cutout of this. So let's actually do that. So here is the shot that I'm going to be working with today. It's just a guy coming up, and let's just bring this right into our project, and we will cut it. We will cut this up. All right, so he's coming up, and I think like when he throws up like that, actually right there, I'm just going to make a quick cut there, and that's actually the frame that we'll be using. Let's get rid of a little bit here and a little bit there, and then we'll open this up, and I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys and come in 1 frame and cut there as well. And then once I cut there, I have this little piece here. I'm going to just right click and come up to change clip speed, and then click freeze frame. And now this will stay indefinite. However long I stretch it, it'll stay as that 1 frame. So I don't know how long these are on this video, but I'm just gonna make mine 2 seconds. 1, 2. So that's how long I'm gonna make mine. Bring it in here, stretch it out, take this, bring that back in. Okay, and then on this clip here, I'm just going to right click new fusion clip, just so that we have our frame numbers start at 0. I'll make it a little easier. And then I'm going to come into Fusion, and let's close that and bring this up just a little bit. And we can close the media pool as well. All right, so we have that the crop in, which I'll actually leave for the end. But then we have all of the little elements that we need to throw in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take this media in. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. And this media in, I'm going to cut out our character here. So I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to bring a mask over into here. And now we obviously don't see anything because there's no mask. So I'm just going to shut off the mask for now. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And now I'm just going to work my way around the character, being sort of precise, but we don't have to be perfect. We can hit Control and mouse wheel in to zoom in a little bit. Like I said, we don't have to be absolutely perfect, but close enough. It's not on screen long enough to spend hours and hours and hours, so you don't really have to be that precise. But for something like this, just because the background is such a drastic different color, we will want to make sure that we don't have that color bleed through. So we might add some like softening in here then. Almost there. Then when we get here and we're just about done and we need to connect this, you can click there, but if you're struggling with clicking it because you might have a lot of them together, you can also click this button right here and it'll close it for you. So now that we have it closed, if we turn it on and double click, now we can see how we did. We didn't do too bad. Down here, obviously we could clean this up a little bit, so you could click on these and bring them in just a little bit, like that. All right, so the next thing that we could do is we could soften this just a little bit, and whoa, hello. All right, so these, holding down Control, you can get finer adjustments. So I think something like that is pretty good. I think that that looks perfectly fine for what we're doing here, just because everything is so quick. So now we have the, let's go to Windows here so we can see everything. We have that, and then over here we have the whole thing. So the next thing we could do is we could bring in just a background, and this will be the color that we're going to throw on top, and we're going to just bring this over here. So then once we have this here, we can pick different blending modes, but I think I'm just going to turn the blend down just a little bit, so something like that, just so we can see it through just a little bit. And then if we were to connect this up and then play it, it's kind of where we're at so far. So not too bad. And I just need to now work on the elements that come into here. So the first one I'm going to do is that bar that goes across. So I'm just going to come over here, and we'll play this over here, and then we'll just get red. Maybe bring it down a little bit. And we will just grab a rectangle, bring that over. Let's go back to 1. Bring this up, bring this in, and slight tilt, right? Like that. Let's connect this in and see how we are looking. Let's connect these two together. Hello, whoa. I'm gonna bring this up just a little bit. All right, so how is this? All right. It's hard to see everything, but so that's our bar going right there. Let's just make it a different color for now. So I think I would want to actually move this up, maybe just to his like shoulder area, and close it up just a little bit, just something like that. You have to remember that we're also going to be punching in here, so I think that looks good. So let's go back to a similar color that we had, so something like that. All right. And the other things that we had to add in was some text. So I'm just going to add in some text right in here. Just like this. Bring this over, bring this up. And then I just want to keep all of these elements together. So I'm just going to pull them over just to keep these elements together. And we'll just view this. So bring this in, bring it up here. Gonna come over and rotate it just a little bit. So we have it in there. And then we need to add some animations to this stuff. So let's just, I think I'm gonna start these at like frame 6. So the first one is this rectangle moving. So I'm just going to keyframe at 6, the center position, and then come up to, let's say 10, keyframe here. I'm going to come back to 6, and then I'm just going to, move this off the screen. I would say that would be fine. Okay, that looks good. The other thing that I wanted to add in here is obviously you see on this edge here, it's coming in, it's quite sharp. So because I'm doing the move with this mask, I'm going to add in motion blur. So So there we go. Now I have motion blur on there. And then the next thing that I want to do is animate the text. So I'm actually going to animate the text on this merge here. So when this is like halfway through, so let's do like 9 or 8. I'm just going to keyframe the size and the position, and then come up to, let's say, frame 12, keyframe there as well, come back to 8, and then I'm just going to increase the size and also change its position. So let's just have it come from up there. So there we go. There's that one. And we could add one more in here. And I'm just going to connect this to the end here. Just keep everything just looking like this. Make it a little easier. And then for this one, I could just put, I don't really have a second part, so I just put, sure, let's view this. And could bring it up here. And we can also do the rotation on this as well. And maybe a different type of font. There we go. And maybe up here, I'll just keyframe its center position and then keyframe here as well, and then coming over to here, I'll just have it move with everything. There we go. Obviously you could spend more time on these and make these look a little bit better, but because I did a move on here, also going to be doing a motion blur, and on here the motion blur. Okay, so our elements so far, they're coming across, and then we have that one coming in from the top. And that's looking pretty good. So the next thing that you will notice is when all this stuff comes over, it's all in front of our character, because our character currently has, or our character is currently coming in as the background. Now we could set this all up so that this is placed on top, but I wanted to show you how to use a mask that we already made. So this mask is cutting everything out, obviously. What we could do is we could come from this mask, let me just move this down so it's easier to see. We could come from this mask that we have that does the cutout, and we could bring it in to this merge, because anything that we affect on this merge will affect the foreground. So if we bring this in, right, and then in this merge, come over, and then we apply mask invert, now it's behind him, and everything that zips around, let's come back, everything that zips around is all behind him, if you can see that there. So let me actually change the color of this. There we go. Looks a little bit better. So yeah, so I think our animation is pretty much done. The only thing that we have to do yet is at the beginning here, we just have to do like a punch in, and our animations start at frame 6. Yeah, they start at 6, but you don't see them until 7. So let's come back to 5, and we'll just have a small punch in here. So coming from this merge, we'll do a transform. So now everything that we have that comes into this point is going to be affected. So instead of having to put it up here, putting the transform up here, changing the size, and then having to change the size on this media in, and resizing everything to fit, we could just bring everything into right before we spit it back out onto the timeline. Just in this scenario, there might be a situation where this wouldn't work, but for what we're doing here, it'll work perfectly fine. And all we have to do is then just increase the size of this to something where everything will still look good on here. So let's see. Okay. So there we go. It'll punch in and it'll have the color and everything will be great. So let's come back over to here, and obviously we have like 6 frames before all that happens, but we can cut a little bit. So I'm just going to let this cache quick, and then we'll play with it a little bit more. All right, so here it is. It's rendered out. We take a look at it. We have pretty much everything. Something I noticed, I think it's zoomed in maybe just a little too much. Animations might come on a little too fast, maybe like 2 or 3 frames, but there was one thing that I noticed that looked a little off. If we take a look at the video that we're referring to, is that in here there are 2 different punch-ins. There's a punch-in, let's come back. There's our first one. So there's a punch-in and then a second punch-in, right? Punch-in and a second punch-in. So there's 2 sets of punch-ins to really sell this. And that's one thing that I was missing. See, there's this second set of punch-ins. The first one's light, and then there's a second one that gets a little bit bigger. So we would actually end up adding that on to just this normal clip here, and then have our little animation here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back over to the Fusion page and make those animations just a little longer, and maybe not have it zoom in as far. So in here, maybe have this zoom in at like maybe 1.5. So something like that. And these, I'm gonna come in here on my spline tool, click on here. Let's get a little bit more space here. And I'm just going to increase these by just a couple of frames. So grab this and just increase by a couple of frames in here as well. All right. All right, so there is that. Okay, and let's come back over. Then I just need to, I think on the video, it's already in a flash, or it's already frozen. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we just need to use that same, use 1 frame. And so let's take all of this. Whoa. Guess I really don't need the audio, but I'll bring that over. Okay, so then we just cut this here and then turn this into a freeze frame. Just bring it up a little bit and maybe make it 3 frames, sure. And then just do a little punch in here. Inspector, zoom in. There we go. Then click here. We'll bring that back. Let's see how it looks now. That works. I'm not a huge fan of the fonts, but kind of sells the whole thing. If we wanted to, we could obviously make the animations just a little bit longer, but I feel like overall we kind of, got it to work, and I don't know what happens afterwards. Maybe it just cuts. Oh yeah, it just cuts to a different shot. So then you figure out how long you want this to be. So like, let's say right there. And then you would just have it go to the next shot and not to here. But this is what we have so far. Boom, boom. And it comes back. And maybe then afterwards it can cut to something else. But that's kind of how you would make a freeze frame-ish thing, similar to the Brooklyn Nine-Nine intro. Let me know what you guys think about this one. If you have any ideas or suggestions, leave them down below. Again, my name's JR, and thanks for watching.